Hello, friends. Today we continue with another episode on startups. A question I have been asked fairly often is what is burn rate? This is frequently when we go to investors to raise funds, we have been asked about a burn rate. What is it and how is it calculated? Another question which has been asked from day one or even before I started my startup episodes is what is the kind of salary that a founder can take home? Okay. I am hoping that we'll be able to address both of these issues today. And I'd like to get into it right away. And I hope this answers the questions because especially about the salary part of it, I think I have received nothing less than about 30 or 40 people who have asked me this question. And even the burn rate has been asked by people who are in the process of raising funds, either from an angel investor or going the next step to a Series A. So let's start looking at it. So starting with burn rate, what is the burn rate? The burn rate is basically the rate at which a startup or any other company consumes its cash resources that are available. Okay, so typically this is expressed in rupees or dollars, however you want to look at it, per month. Okay, so burn rate is what you are spending every month to keep your business going. So it's basically a summation, so to say, of all the committed expenses that are there as on that day. So the burn rate can differ from month to month for a variety of reasons, which you will automatically realize once I start talking of things that go into the burn rate. Okay, so it's a question of committed expenses that you are going to make every month to keep the company going. And naturally, if this is what is burn rate, then we all know that this is something that depletes your cash resources on a regular basis. Okay, and generally, during the initial stages, there is no revenue. And therefore, it's just outgoing expenses, outgoing cash, and no inflow of cash. Okay, so that is why it is very important for one to know what is the burn rate that his company or startup has committed to. Okay, because that is going to help determine the time for which you can stay afloat, so to say, stay in the run, so to say, to cover the expenses with the cash available. So that's essentially the whole idea of a burn rate. Now, one would wonder why I would need to do this. So the thing is, I think all of us know, whether you are a startup or whether you're a company who's looking to expand, that to make money, you have to first spend money. There is an investment that you make, and then there's a return that comes into the picture. And we all know that excessive spending, especially if it is unplanned, okay, is going to cost you a lot of money. And these unplanned expenses or expenses without proper planning and management of the funds, okay? And not only that, you have to monitor where you are spending, okay? Once this burn rate is known to you properly, you have to make sure that that burn rate is justified and that it does not drain the resources of your company. Okay, because if your resources get drained, it leads to severe operating challenges to the extent that if you cannot get the funds that you require, you will be forced to shut down your operations. Okay, and a lot of companies I know, a lot of startups I know, okay, who have gone through this and have had to shut down because they could not raise the funds required for a prolonged period of time and their cash reserves got depleted. Okay. Now, when you're determining the burn rate, if you are going to control it, manage it, monitor it, you are going to have to know not just the amount or the value of the burn every month, but what are the components that are going to it? What is the utilization of the funds allotted to that component or that expense? What is it? Why is it necessary? And whether it is rational, whether it is necessary, and whether you are justified in making those expenses. Okay. Once you know this, then you can plan to optimize your burn rate so that you have the longest period of time that your cash resources will last you. Okay. We call it the runway. That's the runway you will get. That's the number of running months that you will get for you to develop your project, for you to develop contacts so that you can get some funding. And all this has to be done within that time period of what we call the runway. Okay. Another thing that is important to do when you're determining your burn rate is to make sure that you compare with other startups and other established businesses also, which you then have to justify whether it's necessary for a startup or not within that industry, because expenses vary from industry to industry. A service industry will have very different expenses from a product industry where you have to make prototypes and various things that go into it. I don't think I need to explain all this to you, but you know what I'm talking of. Okay. And by doing this exercise, by having this knowledge, you will automatically be able to benchmark your company with others within the industry and be able to reach an optimum level. So why is monitoring your burn rate so important? It's not just about the runway, but by monitoring your run rate, and that is why it is so crucial that your burn rate, by monitoring it properly, it helps you to get financially optimized. You will have the best level of financial optimization if you know your burn rate thoroughly. Besides, monitoring your burn rate is going to help you to make sure that your cash flow management works at an optimal solution. It helps you to mitigate risk because you know that, okay, I have money only for 6 months. So in 6 months, you have to raise the funds or make a serious progress with your product or service that you're developing to make those investors get convinced that, yes, you need the money and that it is justified. And therefore, by doing this, it naturally increases the investor confidence that they will have in your project. So what are the costs that you will look at when you look at burn rate? The first and most important is the salary of the employees, because you need to pay them in time to retain the talent, and you need to have enough money to give decent salaries comparable to market rates nearly to get the best talent on board. Because without the best talent, your product development or service development is going to go for a toss. So you need to have funds regularly for the salaries of your employees. And here I'd like to mention something which we are going to discuss a little later, but the salary of founders and co-founders is not calculated in this and definitely not at the market value. Okay, we'll look at how this works later. You need to take care of marketing expenses. You need to take care of technical and technology expenses. Some software you need to use, some software you need to buy, some that you need to subscribe to, some physical equipment that you need. It's not just about computers and laptops. Depending on your product, you might need other things, scanners, printers, whatever it is that you need. You need money for all of this. You need money for general office and admin expenses. It may be as simple as having tea and coffee for your employees. If they are working 12 hours a day, maybe it includes a snack for them. Okay, because with a startup, you'll frequently find people doing that. I think in one of the previous things I've said that as a founder, you're looking at maybe 80-hour weeks. So your employees are also going to look at serious time that they're going to put in at work. There are product development costs. Okay, it's not just the salaries, but there are other things that will go with it to develop your product. And at the end of the day, there are customer acquisition costs, which you will have to account for in your burn rate. Okay. So now when we talk of burn rate, there are generally two numbers of burn rates that one looks at. One is what we call the gross burn rate. The gross burn rate is just the summation of the outgoing expenses. It does not consider revenues. Okay, so what are your outgoing expenses and divided by the cash available to you will determine your runway. And the other way of looking at it is net burn rate, where you do take into account your revenues. So it is your expenses minus your revenues, again divided by the cash that you have, and that will give you your runway. So in the initial stages, as I said, you will not have revenues. You're still developing your product. You have not yet launched it. So at that time, your net burn rate and gross rate is going to be the same. And your runtime that is available, as I said, and just make a note of it, is the number of months is determined by what is the available cash divided by the burn rate. So if you have got 100,000 rupees available and your burn rate is 10,000 rupees a month, you are going to be able to sustain yourself for 10 months. That 10 months is the period you have to raise more funds and or develop your product so that investors get interested. So this is basically the gross rate, the net rate, and that is what is going. And the burn rate varies on a lot of factors. So you can't say that, okay, this guy is doing this, I will do that. No, it depends on a lot of factors. And some of them are the stage of your startup. If you're just a novice, okay, your burn rate is going to be higher because not only do you have the other costs involved, you have a talent acquisition cost that is going to come into play. Okay, it depends on the industry you are in. We all know industries work differently and product development within industries is different. What is the type of product? If it's just a service product, I would believe that it is relatively less expensive to develop that software or that startup service that you need rather than something that requires a physical product where you are going to have to design and make maybe dies and maybe get it casted and maybe get it assembled and develop prototypes. And then you go in for round 2 and round 3 and it's all difficult. What is the business model you follow? Okay, there are many things. One of the simplest business models is if you're following a crowdfunding principle. Once you have a minimum viable and valuable product, MVP available to you, maybe you can launch out and say that, okay, guys, this is what I'm building. This is a first stage cut of the thing. Now fund me. And anybody who funds me will get the initial product at 50% off. Something like that. I mean, I'm just throwing numbers. Where are you located? If you're located in a place like Mumbai, it's going to be more expensive than being located in a place like Pune or being located in a place like Chennai. So your location is going to make a difference. And at the end of the day, your burn rate is going to determine your runway. And for that, it depends on your funding ability. Because amount of cash available divided by the burn rate is your runway window that you have. So now that we're talking of burn rate, we remember that burn rate is very useful for better and effective business decisions. Okay, so what kind of decisions? Say adjust spending. Okay, we are all spending. That's why burn rate comes into the picture. But by having good knowledge and monitoring your burn rate and being aware of all the components of your burn rate, you can optimize your personal spending. You can reduce assets, unnecessary assets. Okay, maybe you invested in a bigger rented place where you're paying a higher salary, but for the time being, and maybe for the next 3 months, you need maybe just 1/4 of that area. Reduce your asset base, reduce your cost. You're going to reduce your rent by probably as much as 60%. Okay, it will determine and tell you that you need to increase sales, basically increase revenues. Okay, and maybe it tells you that, okay, with my existing product, this is the max revenue I can expect. So can I think and can I do some product enhancement to increase my revenues? So this is one of the things. The second thing that it will help you to do, because you are always calculating revenues and net burn rate, is it will help you to determine if your product or service that you are offering are profitable to you as a company. Okay. And once you know that expense and margins and profits, you know what is going to be your break-even level. Until you reach that break-even level, you are going to be continuously stressed. And it will also enable you, if your margins are great and if you know that you're doing very well with the pricing, it can help you to offer discounts or competitive pricing or some kind of a carrot to the customer to sign up and increase your customer base. And also knowing all this and doing all this will help you to identify new opportunities that you might need at any stage. It will give you a revenue enhancement strategy. You can develop a revenue enhancement strategy if you have enough cash and if your burn rate is low. Maybe new markets, maybe new products, maybe additional services for the new product that you have already launched. Okay. And whether there is an opportunity to offer your product with customizable solutions. Okay. Maybe you look at something like mass customization, which is quite an in thing nowadays. Okay. So knowing your burn rate and knowing your resources available is going to help you to do all this. Okay. Also, it will help you to improve customer onboarding. If you improve customer onboarding, you will reduce the churn of the customers. Your customers will be there with you. They will have a longer life with you. Okay. Trust me, it is far more expensive to get a customer than to maintain one. So you will be able to, if you improve customer onboarding and give them a great initial user experience, whether it's a service or whether it's a product. And what can you do to make sure you get this? Have product tools. Can be multimedia. It can be just digital. It can be a video. It can be just a printed brochure, whatever it is. It can be a method of installing if you are creating some physical product. Tool tips. Okay, you can take out what is something like a cheat sheet, which is going to tell that consumer on how best to use your service or your product. Okay. And you will be able, you need to, not you will be able, you need to reduce churn of the customers, inform them of the product value and the benefits that they will get by using that. So conveying, communicating the value and benefits of your product is a very important ingredient in determining this. Send welcome emails. Okay. Educate your customers about what is their use different media, as I just said. Encourage engagement. Do service. Eliminate feature blindness. This happens very often. People don't even know about the features of your product because, you know, nowadays nobody has the time to read this thing. So find out innovative ways by which you will convey the eliminate feature blindness and increase usage of functions that you have developed. Another thing that you can do to reduce the churn rate is to continuously measure customer satisfaction and collect feedback and testimonials. Conduct survey, offer some kind of reward for respondents, and encourage customers to share their successes, benefits of using the product, which you can then use as testimonials. Provide relevant content regularly. Reiterate benefits. There are people who forget and are still blind to your features. Okay. And as I said, keep using different media. To reduce the churn rate, build retention hooks. Maintain constant relationships with your users. Figure out a way by which you will identify the at-risk customers who are probably going to leave your service or not use your product well enough. And reach out to them, give them special training, special help, and also special offers to make sure that they stay with you. And by doing all this, what you can surely hope to achieve is committed subscriptions, preferably annual subscriptions. So you know you have the customer for a year. And at all times, work on reactivating inactive customers. Okay, focus on your core competencies and let it be known about all the time to your customers. Defer or reduce expenses if necessary, and definitely delete old products or products that are not serviceable by you or with which you yourself have come out with a better model. Don't stop serving the older model, but remove it from new sales. Okay, now we come to the last point. I'm going to take another 5 minutes. I know this has become a long session, but startup founder salary. The first thing you have to remember is depends on the state of the cash flow of your company. Okay, and if there is no revenue before the revenue starts and the burn rate is negative, definitely no salary for the founders. Okay, and even if you are giving any salary at any stage, it is not the market rate. I'm going to come to that in a few minutes. Always before deciding on a salary for as a founder, check with the board and get it cleared by them. Okay, because this can become a very sensitive topic. The board is not investing. The investor is not investing to pay you salaries. Okay, definitely no salary in the early stages or while your MVP is still being developed. And remember one thing at the end of the day, entrepreneurs don't or should not be making big money just as salaries. Okay, they will make big money as dividends. So salary should be paid only to employees of the company. That means if the founder is working. If the founder is just an investment or he is not an active working partner, he does not get a salary. His return comes by way of the equity holds and the dividend he gets on the same. Okay, so having said this, let's look at the next the last thing about what should be the salary. Okay, so the salary should depend on the stage of the startup and the financial viability, whether the startup can afford to pay you a salary or not. And you need to make sure that you are eligible for it and that you are able to afford paying yourself that as a startup. The general norms, again, these are just thumb rules, is that at the pre-seed level, normally there is no salary. But at times, if the product has been developed by just these two people and some progress has been made, you would take a salary to cover your living expenses, nothing else. No holidays, no fancy restaurants, maybe 5 or 6% of the market value of the salary. At the seed level, that will increase to 10 or 15%. At the angel level, once you have angel investing, that means salary can increase to maybe 15 up to 20% of the market value. When you have Series A funding, maybe 25 to 30%. When you have Series B funding, maybe 45 to 50%. These are all values of market value of that salary. And once you become profitable, the startup becomes profitable, it can be anywhere between 80 to 100% of the market value. So remember these tips, guys. I hope this answers your question very clearly about whether startup founders should take a salary or not, and what is the justifier of this salary. If you have any questions, please do message me. I'll be more than happy to address them. And I hope this episode helps. I will come back with my next episode on Monday. Till then, have a great weekend. Enjoy the episodes. Do take time over the weekend to catch up with any of the episodes you have missed. You may have missed. And thank you for your support.